While everybody else was kind of going to journalism school or getting internships at the local paper, I was a bass player, and ironically, I kind of feel like in this blogging stuff, which is what I've been asked to talk about today, I feel like in the blogging world, playing rock and roll is actually has been kind of helpful. And so I wanted to sort of impart, rock's lessons to blogging. Lesson number one that you learn as a musician is nobody's ever going to do anything for you. You'll get some label guy, he'll tell you he's going to do everything in the world, but labels never do anything, clubs never promote their own gigs, music critics are always out chasing Miley Cyrus, and so you got to learn to do it yourself. Sort of the old model of letting somebody else maybe do a rewrite, or somebody else do a copy edit, or somebody else, take care of art, or somebody else take care of headlines. That's that's really not going to happen anymore if you go into the blogging world. You really got to do it pretty much all on your own, which is a pain, which is a total pain, and it's more work. But on the other hand, it gets to be yours, and so you never have to be saddled again with what you think is a great story and some lame headline that totally misses the point of your story entirely. Lesson number two for me that I've learned is that while you're doing everything yourself, you're not totally alone. On the road, what winds up happening is you wind up hooking up with other bands who play the same kind of music you do. And maybe one of you guys is in Philly, and another of you guys is in Washington, and a third guy's in Baltimore. And you all sort of team up, and pretty soon you've got an East Coast tour. At least the way I understand traditional journalism is it's a fight against your fellow reporters, right? Who can beat who to the story. Give as little credit as possible. At least that's what I've seen in traditional journalism. Keep your Rolodex to yourself. Try not to acknowledge any help from anybody. But, blogging, what I've seen, it sort of is more about the music model. So, for example, if John gets a scoop, I'd like to beat John to any story, right? And I get very mad if I don't. However, if I get a scoop, that's good for me. And if John gets a scoop, that's good for me too. Because if he gets a scoop, then I can link it to my blog, and then it's on my site and on his site. And he gets a little bit more traffic, I get a little bit more content, and it kind of works for everybody. Guys that you may have once seen as your rivals are actually in some ways like your new best friends, co-reporters, what have you. Okay, lesson number three. I spent a lot of my music career playing with this one particular lead singer. And like all lead singers, he was totally out of his freaking mind. And one day he would be, the most energetic guy, jumping around, connecting with the audience. The next day he'd be like in the corner, singing with his back to the crowd. And, it's not going to come as any surprise that when he was connecting with his audience, he did, the band went over a lot better, right? And so I guess that's a kind of corny way of saying that the nice thing about this still newish medium is that we get to have some fun. And sort of like dry anodyne leads and, kind of stock quotes from stock sources who are going to say, what they're going to say before they even open their mouths. And, program great, says program manager. All that kind of stuff you can drop. And you can have fun. And you can connect with your audience. So a quick example. So you guys all know about the Blackwater and the Nisour Square shooting in 2007? Yes? No background necessary? Okay. So, and you know that afterwards, the company really tried to reshape its image, right? Try to become more of a friendly, diverse company. And so rather than just like report, Blackwater tries to soften image, my co-writer Sharon Weinberger came up with something totally hilarious, which was top 10 PR moves for Blackwater. And number 3, maybe 4, there was a couple of them. There was like, hire a friendly ex-general. There was, all kinds of stuff. But I think number 3, number 4 was get a new logo, right? And so instead of just saying, yes, we advise you to get a new logo, what we did instead is we asked readers to come up with their own logos for Blackwater. And we got hundreds of submissions. People sitting down at Photoshop. Some were really crude. Some were like clearly people had spent like a whole day crafting this. And then we held a contest to see which it's a long story, but online voting is very easy, and so people were able to vote up the best one. And the winner, the absolute winner, the number 1 winner, was it was a pink Hello Kitty, that sort of very cute animated character, and the pink Hello Kitty was holding a gun, and there was a big heart around her, and in sort of 4th grade girls script it said Blackwater, and to me, that made the point about the sort of insanity of softening the image of a private security firm much better than any kind of dry story did, and it got the readers involved, and everybody had a ton of fun, and we got a ton of traffic for it. So, okay, does this mean goodbye old school journalism, goodbye strong leads, strong headlines, inverted pyramids, getting good quotes, making sure your sourcing is straight? No, absolutely not. In fact, if anything, I've found that the time-tested rules about journalism count more in blogging than I ever found them to be true before. There's so much information out there online that nobody has got time to find your buried lead, right? Nobody has got time to read your boring headline, right? People only have time, they want to get to the point right away. I also know, I just want to get back to this idea of fun for a second, and then I'm done, is, look, in this beat especially, right, we all know that there's this giant temptation, there's this huge sort of vortex of jargon, right, and acronym and doublespeak, right? Civilians don't get killed, they're collateral damage, right? There aren't Pentagon officials, there's DASD, LIC, or, right? Because we report on that stuff, I think sometimes there's a huge temptation to get sucked into that vortex of doublespeak. Right, but I mean, let's all remember that like a professional jargon is there to allow insiders to communicate without interference from the outside world, right? That's why accountants have their doublespeak, that's why lawyers have their doublespeak, that's why, hip-hop artists talk in their doublespeak. It's so that they can talk to each other and no one else will understand what's going on. And so I think by sort of having fun and kind of piercing that doublespeak and kind of like, I don't know, just being a little rock and roll about it, we're all going to be doing really well in the blogging world.